G'day, mate.
What up, big dog? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing lovely. I'm digging this Zelda situation over here.
Hell yeah.
So
I always love it when people notice the Majora's Mask or they make fun of me for liking Majora's Mask more than the Ocarina of Time, but that's just my little personal opinion.
I think I'm in good hands.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Well, how are you today, mate? Thank you so much for joining me on the weekend, which is great. It's a nice little break for me.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited, man. Today's been really, really good for interviews, and I'm just feeling good, man.
That's good to hear. And it's weird that this is the second Australian Jai you're going to be like talking to you today. I'm sure that doesn't happen too often, but there we go.
I want to say it might be the third.
Oh God, geez, there's too
Yeah,
many of us around.
yeah, no, it's good, man. I look at the numbers. Australia treats us right.
We try our best. We try our best. But mate, congratulations on having the new album coming out in April and the new single Driftwood. It's a couple of weeks old now. How are you feeling? That people have been reacting to this one quite pleasantly.
It's kind of crazy to me. I really didn't know what to think, just considering history and such. But
Yeah.
dude, just like the reaction has been very overwhelmingly positive, and
Mm.
so I didn't really expect that. I wanted it, but uh, I'm just pretty surprised with the first week. I think we're just tipping the first week, maybe 8, 9 days out,
Yeah.
and it's crazy, man. It's hitting new playlists every day, dude. It's like it's doing well.
Well, I know it was doing something right because it popped up in my algorithm straight away. I was like, oh damn, I wasn't expecting the new because it just kind of dropped out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it. Normally I have a bit of an idea of what's coming up, but boom, open the app,
Yeah.
there it is, put it on. I was like, oh shit, okay. This is one thing I do like about you guys, and I love it, is how technical and brutal it is, but you got that sense of kind of atmosphere in there as well when you chuck in the clean vocals and everything comes over the top. That's something that I've noticed has kind of evolved in this genre for a little while now, and it's good to see kind of people really embraced it because having the cleans in extreme metal for a long time was considered a big no-no. Like, how's it kind of been on your end, experience people's, I guess, vision of it change over time?
Are you saying in regards to cleans?
Yeah, yeah, in regards to cleans.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, thankfully for me in my position, the previous gentleman, Riley, he already introduced him to
Yeah.
the group. So like that was already a nice cushion, but he definitely like raised the bar with the band and shit. So it definitely made me think that I had to take things a little bit more serious. Um, but I mean, kudos to that whole situation, in my opinion, just because I mean, I get off on that kind of stuff. I like hooks, I like things like that. I mean, ultimately, it's always going to be a death metal band first.
Yeah.
That is what it is, and people will understand that when they hear the whole album. They won't realize that it's just all singing or anything like that. But it was a really cool time and opportunity. I think it was really a matter of timing, considering my history with and without the group and all the personal growth I've done there, as well as like really leaning in onto this like single momentum. Like I really wanted to produce something that was like, I want to hear that. Like I want to be
Yeah.
driving down the road and hear somebody driving by me being like hearing that chorus swinging by or whatnot. And that would be a good feeling. And I don't know, man. It's kind of a personal goal. So I'm
Yeah.
just glad we achieved it. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the album's pretty brutal. So
I'm looking forward to it. But that's one of the things, and I like it as well because you said it right. I love a big hook as well, and I think people deep down, even if they don't want to hear cleans and some of this heavier music, people like hooks, man. You hear that live, especially, and you just
yeah,
sing along, and to see a whole crowd just sing along, it's a beautiful thing, really.
I
At the
agree.
end of the
I
day.
agree. And that's like something I get people yelling or doing the hey, hey, hey thing, but I want to hear 1,000 people sing some words, like actually sing. I know that that's gonna, I mean, the main reason why I do this at all is
Mm.
because of the performance aspect. That's my
Yeah.
favorite thing. It's what I'm passionate about. So to hear a room do it, that's going to be the thing that's like the driving force. I think that keeps me going.
Yeah. And speaking of that, because like you did mention, you were away from the band for like a decade. How was the dynamic of where it was before to where it was now? Was it kind of like, riding a bike, you just kind of jump back on, or were there different dynamics? Did everyone grow as a songwriter? Did you kind of have to retrain yourself almost to be a part of this band?
Dude, it was interesting. It was like riding a bike,
Mm.
right? It almost felt like I didn't skip a beat. The time away was great in the sense that it like that was a big reset button, right? So
Yeah.
I approached it again with passion again, and so getting back into it, I guess like the only thing that was like kind of a huge like whoa was kind of really rediscovering all the routines that everybody
Mm.
has. So like if you're on the road or if you're recording an album, there's these routines that you develop over the course of, you know, however many years. We've this technically being our seventh full length.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple we've had a couple goes at it. Goes at it. I don't know how to say that, but uh it really becomes easier. And then with that being said, it kind of allows for you to incorporate new ideas or new
Mm.
evolutions and such. So it's like, you know, like sitting back, I can see why all these people in interviews are like, yeah, it's like the most, you know, diverse and most evolved version of us. Because it's fucking true, man. You have no choice. It's like you don't, unless you're, you know, getting hit by a car doing some pretty shitty drugs, you're not gonna you shouldn't be going backwards. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He's spot on, and you mentioned it, and every band goes, "Oh, we've really evolved over time." And you know, I've heard people in the comments going, "Oh, every band says this." I was like, "Man, if it's 10 years later and you haven't evolved or learned something new or kicked a bad habit, there's something seriously wrong." So that is just life. I think people forget sometimes that music is a part of life. You're not here to kind of create. Well, you could if you wanted to, but you're not kind of here to create the same album again and again and again and again. That works for some people. I don't think it works for you guys. I don't think it works in this genre. Really, it has to keep evolving.
I have to agree, dude. And I think that like the first tell of that would be just listening to Allegiant. Like if
Mm.
you jam out like a few of the albums, you're getting the Spanish guitar, you're getting like the waltz, you're getting death metal, some seething black metal, a lot of melodic shit, super tech stuff. Like it's gonna expand. We're
Yeah.
not really we're not pigeonholing ourselves where we're not just straight
Yeah.
Florida death metal, and we've never marketed ourselves as such. It's always been like an expansive universe for us.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said in Florida as well. You get so many different bands. I just saw Body Snatcher on the weekend, for example. Like a
Yeah.
great band, great band. But you guys are all different from each other. Well, here's another one. Trivium's from Florida as well. You guys, there's so many of you in this one location, but you all sound so vastly different. Is that something that's been on purpose? Is that something you've ever looked at and reflected on? Or it's like every band here kind of has to stand out in their own unique way, or is it just you didn't think
Well,
about it?
I don't know how much thought really goes into that because like
Yeah,
Greg is British descent. He
yeah,
lives in Canada. You know, me and Mike live in Colorado. Jeff's in Boston, Boo Boo's in San Francisco. So like for us to kind of get together and like formulate, it doesn't really work like that. We'll tear shit up like at a later time to make sure that everything's cohesive and cool and everybody's appeased. But in a lot of cases, it's like you have your guitar players that write, you know, a handful of songs. You have another guitar player that writes a handful of songs. And then what's been happening a lot, or not a lot, but just here and there, I guess, is Boo Boo, the bass player, has been writing. And
mm,
thing is like it kind of speaks, I guess, if we're talking about regional, like, you know, I guess Allegiant was always kind of like a touch of like that. I don't want to fully like subscribe to the idea, but it's like more of that like Norwegian sound, right? Like
mm,
that
yeah,
melody, the melodic shit. And but if you listen to Driftwood, that's got West Coast tech written all over it. Like
yeah.
that's like, you know, and it's written by Boo Boo straight out of California, so it makes sense. So maybe region has like a part of it, but you know, like Stancil, that dude is very his listening like is so vast and so wide. He listens to whale noises, to like tech death, to the craziest pop you've ever heard, and dance music and shit. And then you got Greg, who's like very much the musician's musician, the guy that's like, I'm you know, classical fucking
Mm.
waltz, you know, incorporating these more traditional, very old school styles back into it. And so, I mean, it just ends up being what you hear, man. When you put all that shit in a blender, and it's just a problem.
It's very interesting because I think at the same time there is a certain, like you said, West Coast that makes sense, and Norwegian you made sense as well. Sweden, you think of the Gothenburg sound, all those melodic death metal bands, and I feel you guys have a bit of that melodic death metal kind of touch to you as well. Just that slight bit enough to kind of make you guys really stand out and kind of push forward. And I've heard the term mellotech used to describe you guys, which I think is cool at the same time. Like at the same time, that's awesome. So is that something you kind of embrace as well? Because it is different. Not everyone goes around going, oh yeah, we're kind of like a melodic tech death band.
You know, we it was like a dumb conversation. It happened a couple of years ago. It was we've always considered ourselves melodic technical death metal or technical melodic death metal, however you want to phrase it. But it was just like literally a joke. I was talking about like a hashtag or something dumb, and I was like Mellotech. And I was like, wait a second, that feels right.
Yeah.
Like, and I mentioned it to the boys, and they're like, yes, that's fucking it. And then so, just started throwing it in some posts, and it honestly, man, out of out of other the wheel of subgenres from Elements of the Infinite 1.618 and like the hot dogs from the Iridescent video, like those are two topics that are brought up a lot.
Yeah.
But I am just so like taken aback by like how many people are bringing up the Mellotech thing. It tells me it's like latching on, and I love it.
You got it, man. You got to start getting the shirts when you go out on tour. Mellotech. I know Imminence has done the violin call. You got to own it, man. You got to own it.
Dude, I'm gonna get a tattoo.
Yeah, that's it. You can get it across the knuckles if you haven't already got it done. There you go.
That real estate's already shit.
Well, mate, let's talk about the album a bit more, because you got one single out now, and like you said, the rest of the album is pretty brutal. How was the writing process for this one? Because you guys, it's not very 4/4 music, and you write verse, chorus, verse, bridge. It's technical at the same time, but like you said, it's got that melodic sense to it. How was writing this album? And tell me, where does it get its most brutal, and where does it get its most, I guess, lighter? I won't say light moments, but lighter moments.
Sure. So the writing, I feel like it's just easy. I see it as easier and easier because I'm not doing the shit that the guys are doing. You know what I mean? They're playing all that shit, but like, I guess from my point of view, I found more fun in it because my passion's been reignited. So I was able to like really get in there, but I also found myself being a stickler for wanting it to be perfect. So I applied like probably too much time to the actual writing when I could have been fucking demoing or like doing other pre-production stuff. But dude, really just in my heart of hearts, I just wanted it to be right. Like if this is my first full length back, I really wanted to kind of shoot for the stars, hit that home run. And, like again, like since the routines have really become such a pivotal thing, like, getting into the studio, we did the writing retreat a few months before, about a week, or it's about a week long, that we just tore up the songs and restructured them. What's going to make the album, what's not going to make the album. Then we tore them up again for 3 days with Dave Otero just to make sure everything was copacetic, that he was on the same page, we were on the same page, and we were all, shooting for a common goal. And then, then fucking Ossuary Lens was born, and it was like effortless because out of the lineup changes that Allegiance had, I think, in my opinion, and it seems like a lot of the other boys, this is the most like locked in we've ever been, and most like stoked about the band. We all get along, so it's like it's very, very nice for once, and there's just so much growth in that realm. And if I was to talk about like the heaviest and maybe more the most heartfelt, I would say like the heaviest. There's a couple songs, man, that stick out. I think a lot of people are gonna like a song called DSE Ray.
Yep.
That's kind of built around, there's a reoccurring musical theme that happens, and it's been happening for hundreds of years in music. It's kind of, I don't want to misquote it, but it's like kind of a hymn or just music that's played often associated with death. Yeah. And so we kind of like took that in as far as the notes and the sonic aspect of everything. And then lyrically, like DSC Ray is essentially Judgment Day, right? When everybody comes to the throne, banished to hell and shit like that. But my twist is I'm the one doing the banishing, and a kind of like a fuck it, everybody's gonna die anyway type of thing.
Yeah.
In the true form death metal, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool as fuck. It's got some seething like black metal-esque vibe going on too. The one that hits hard for me and I think is heavy as fuck is a song called Scythe. It's how we end the album. Yep. I think the lyrical content is amazing. It's kind of like dealing with this feeling that I've kind of had throughout my entire life of like kind of death looming in a sense. A lot of people have like this angel and this devil, but I've always had this like fucking grim reaper. And that's kind of what gets a lot of shit done in my life is this like almost in a sense weird anxiety. So it's like it's a climbing the mountain I won victorious song because it's kind of taking that looming death and like reversing it, taking control of that. So I'm a big fan of that.
Oh yeah.
And then the one that probably tugs on the heartstrings, I think the most is probably a song called Wake Circling Above. Um, Dealing with a lot of the, maybe the, you know, we got the scientific elements.
Yeah.
We always have to incorporate that because that's what we are. But since I went and dove into a little bit more of the interpersonal subjects, like a little bit of the sobriety and like me getting my shit together over the last eight years or whatnot, you know, that kind of vibe carried over to Wake Circling Above. And he also on this album leaned in a lot on Michael sings, and he taught himself over COVID. And I don't think in any Allegiant album there's been an additional vocalist.
No.
So it's always been whoever, like me or Riley or whoever. And so we wanted to make sure that we showcased that, right? Because he's killing it in his other band, Harvard. He's doing this Children of Bodom cover band, and the chops are there, dude. And the guy's fucking phenomenal. So it's like, okay, let's really kind of shoot for the stars on this album. Make sure we hit all the points where we're all satisfied, and then boom, let the world kind of decide.
Yeah. And do you find it therapeutic to write like that, like the heavy subjects when it's done and it's recorded and you listen back? Is it kind of like, it's almost like a weight like lifted off your shoulders to an extent?
I love that you asked that, dude, because like I've always been like really accepting and really stoked about my position in Allegiant when I'm in Allegiant. I've always known that it's like, you know, this scientific based thing, and I enjoy writing about those topics as well because I am passionate about them. But to me, in my core heart and soul, for me to really be emotionally invested, for me to be excited, for me to really want to put my passion into it, I have to have some kind of connection emotionally to it. So, you know, I grew up, you know, I was born in the 80s and grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, of course. And there was a lot of angsty music, you know, like that interpersonal angsty shit. And that's really why I got into it. So that's how I connected. But there was like these two singles that we recorded prior to the Ossuary Lens. And that was just to kind of knock off the dust, you know, get back into the seat, get comfortable again. And I'm glad I did that. I'm super happy I did that for a couple of reasons. One, to get familiar again with the recording process and how like tight knit that is, but also to kind of get that angry shit out. Like, so listen to the lyrical content of those songs. They're the most like fuck you angry songs I've ever done.
Yeah.
But now that that's out of my system, now I could focus on like the interpersonal shit. And now that I have like those topics out of the air, like out of my realm, my being, my energy, whatever, like I guess in a sense I almost feel like it's kaput, it's complete, it's done. Cool. The loose ends are tied, we're good. And then now I'm just like searching for the new topics, you know, what's my next evolution? Of course, Greg and I are still shooting back and forth like all the science topics that's going to be on the next album, but it's like, I don't know, man. It's really cool. It's really beautiful because I'm connected to it, and I've never had that 100% connection. So this is also another great point or great reason why I think this album will stick out amongst the rest of ours.
Yeah, and I can tell the passion you have describing it as well. I just know it's going to be something special when it comes out. So I'm getting more excited the more you're talking about it. I hope people watching it are feeling the same way. I'm pumped, man. You're hyping me up. You hype me up. You know, you're a front man. You're a front man. You know how to work the crowd. You know what you're doing here. And speaking of being the front man and working the crowd, have you got the songs that you want to play live off the new album yet, or you kind of haven't entered that space yet?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a timing thing right now. Right now, I could tell people that I guess expect Driftwood. I think we're also playing the second single, which we'll release here in the near future, And then we have a third single as well. I don't think we're really going to play that one. I think there might have been a little talk about it today, but we got so much on our plate with
Yeah.
this co-headliner coming up. So it's like, let's kind of lock in this hour worth of music and like kind of feel it out. But yeah, I would expect at least Driftwood and possibly the second single. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For now, until like things kind of evolve a little bit with the listeners.
I was going to say, speaking to the listeners as well, because I know Spotify and, all the negative things about Spotify, but one thing it does well is it tells you different people in different regions what they're listening to and what they like. Yeah. Do you pay attention to that? Yeah, there we go.
So I am like a fucking nerd, man. I like finance and stocks and numbers and graphs and bullshit like that.
Yeah.
And so you give me some analytics, bro, and I am surprised. Like I'm looking hard in the driftwood, right? And
Yeah.
we just, as I can, from what I can tell so far, it's doing well, right? And I'm comparing it to the other releases and really seeing kind of what numbers and shit looks like, and also keeping in mind the evolution of things, just technology wise. And so to see like some of our demographics, some of the regions that are out there, dude, why is Helsinki, Finland our number one? I don't know, but I'm fucking in.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm Finnish, yeah. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But like London is huge for us. Melbourne, fucking huge for us. Mexico City, like keeping in mind the population, it's just so fucking mind-blowing. So yes, I agree with you that like their analytics is lit. And what I'm really thriving on now is just seeing Driftwood be added to these like playlists.
Yeah.
I don't really think that Allegiant has been added to. Like more popular like playlists that have almost 2 million like saves and shit. So it's like now that hopefully this strategy and hopefully everything's working accordingly, if this does what it should do, then it's kind of opening those doors for a slightly wider audience, but within that metal realm. So it's like, man, I am loving it. I'm liking where it's going. I hope it continues. And I think the best thing we could do is just put it in people's face now. Just get out there on the road more,
Yep, and that's it. And like I said, you described and you mentioned Melbourne as well and all places. This is why we start to get bands, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you guys as well come down to Australia. That's the big point I was trying to get to with this one as well. So you kind of led into it. Good job. But yeah, no, like, is there any talk at the moment, or it's just going to be one of those things where you're going to get the call one day and they're like, "Hey, man, we're bringing you down under."
No, we got you, man. So I'll put it this way. So right now we got this North America situation happening with Warbringer, Skeletal Remains, and Summoning the Lich. It's going to be lit. I'm stoked on that. We're laser focused on Europe just because we've been trying to get back there we got some unfinished business. And so of course we got to eyeball that. But a huge point of discussion has been, how can we get Allegiant back to Australia and then also hit Japan while we're there? Because why the fuck not? We're on the other side of the planet, right? That would be my first time going to Australia. So I'm of course really excited about that. But one thing that I'm finding kind of common with a lot of the press that I've been doing is there's this kind of question about like, are you guys going to come? And it's absolutely, I could always say with certainty that we are 100% always going to come unless one of us dies or some shit. But it's the logistics and the fucking politics in death metal is, for lack of a better fucking term, it's stupid, man. And there's just it's a lot of egos, it's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of how people market themselves. And I value it in the sense that everybody's looking out for themselves. You have to. It's your company. Does Walmart look out for fucking Kroger? Does do these companies look out for each other? Not really, but it's just like there's, in my opinion, a lack of a common ground. And then you also mix in like maybe booking agents in the mix, and like how they're struggling to find this common ground and stuff. And it's just because for as saturated as death metal is, it's just a very competitive game. And I don't know, man. Like I don't give a shit how we get to other places. It's just a matter of like us locking in the variables and the details, which eventually they always do.
Yeah.
Timing does come into play, and it does help a lot. But I just wish it was a little easier, man. I feel like Allegion's kind of always gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to like finding shit like that, dude. It's just like it's not, it hasn't been an easy road. But I
Yeah.
also kind of like, what kind of keeps me afloat is like you see those bands that kind of shoot up rocket status so fast and they fizzle. And again, with the analytics, man, if you look at like a Legion's trajectory, man, it's only been going up. Like
Yeah.
it's never dipped, it's never done anything wacky, maybe a little COVID action, whatever. It happens to everybody, but we're still maintaining that, and
Yeah.
that makes me happy.
Yeah.
So, yes, to answer your question, sir, yes, we are coming out to Australia. We are focused on trying to do it this year. Um,
Awesome.
that's the focus.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I'm sure some people were very happy to hear that. I know I am myself. But, mate, it's been great. I just looked at the time. We're almost out of time today, but let's end it on a light note. You pointed out Majora's Mask a bit earlier. You mentioned you were born in the 80s like myself. What did you
Yeah.
grow up on? What was your video game of choice? Is it still something in your life, or like me, are you finding less and less time for it the older you get?
Ooh, I get to talk about shit I like more.
Yeah.
So, okay, love Zelda. I was a Mortal Kombat guy. I was the type of dude that like we couldn't afford like magazines or because there was no internet to get like the combos and shit.
Yeah.
So I would sit there with Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on Sega Genesis and practice. I'd go through the 2 rounds, beat their ass, practice until I learned the super moves or
Yeah.
whatever. And then I would also practice and just do combos until I figured out fatality. So it was always like trying to break, kind of like game breaking, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did that, but now during COVID, bro, I got into Warzone heavily with Xbox, and I was like, this game's fucking terrifying. And then I was like, okay, PlayStation. And then I was like, no, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going PC. And then I was like, wait, I'm going to take this super seriously. And now I play mouse and key Apex Legends. So it's like,
Wow.
dude, I love that, man. I get off on movement games and like just
Yeah.
to me, games are cool. Zelda's amazing in the sense that it's a fucking the most interactive, beautiful puzzle ever.
Mm.
It's that's but to me, it's like when you're in a battle royale, bro, you're going against either the dumbest person you've ever met or never met, and or either the smartest. And it's like you can die by accident, you can die by talent. And to me, like I like the idea of breaking another human and sending them back to the lobby rather than trying to break a game.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I guess, since I'm 40, I do the Muay Thai stuff. That keeps me active, but I'm not really in a position to go do active sports, go play football or like, have that competitive manly nature that I want to do. So shooting people in video games with that fucking old dad, fucking vibe.
Yeah.
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 I'm going to take that up.
Okay.
I'm going to kill some dads out there.
Yeah, fuck you, man. That's exactly it. And it's funny you mentioned Mortal Kombat, and I remember I was only talking to a friend about this the other day. Mortal Kombat 2, Liu Kang. There was a little cheat you could do right before it started. If you started here at round one, phew, if you rotated around on the pad, he'd do the bicycle kick, and it would go off before anyone could even do it. He'd technically move a millisecond before anyone else could. It was a game-breaking thing I figured out back in the day when I was a little fella.
That is crazy that you remember that. And
Yeah,
you saying that sparked that for me because I was the type that knew all the lore. I knew all
yeah,
the moves. I always played the three girls, the Melina, Katana, Jade situation.
yeah,
Um, and like, bro, I respect that because I was always into the like toasties playing the fucking, I want to fight reptile in the pit. I want to like
yeah.
to see all the shit that they hide in the game. Blood code,
Yeah,
like
a noob Cybot and everything in number two being the breaker.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, Ermac. Yep, yep. No, beautiful, beautiful. It's one of those things. It's funny how you don't think about it for 20 years and then someone just brings it up and you're like, shit, that was a thing, man. I remember that. It's crazy how our brains are wired.
Bro, yeah, and you just did because I
Yeah.
remember that specifically.
Yeah.
Like that's wild. I haven't thought about that for over 20 years, bro. Like
Well,
I've never wild.
well, there you go. I'm glad I left you with something today. But, mate,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out. I'm glad I got to talk about some old school video games. I don't get to do that all the time. So
Yes.
awesome. Anything you want to say before I let you go today, though?
Yeah, just anybody that, if you've heard us, if you haven't heard us, please check out Driftwood. Of course, that's what we're all, super stoked on. Catch us if you're in North America or anywhere around there. Catch us on tour this spring, about a month away. That's going to be the Vortex of Violence tour. Again, laser focus on Europe, laser focus on
Yes.
Australia and Japan, and all these cute little markets around the planet around, that also treat us well. Yeah, just come out to shows. We want to meet you. We're approachable guys. We'd love to just make as many friends as possible.
Beautiful. Well said, mate. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day. What's left of it? It's just the beginning of my day over here in Australia.
Yeah,
So have fun, mate.
I love it, bro. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a great day, dude.
I will. Thank you, dude. Bye.